the flats. Love the flats. Love the flats. Switch. Love the flats. Live on Magic Man. Okay, so we're live. Welcome back to the Magic Minds podcast. I'm Matt Burke. You're watching and listening to the Liberties #1 podcast. Yup the Liberties, Yup the Flats. Today is our first episode of this series called Yup the Flats, where we get to interview awesome people from the flats and we hear their stories. And I couldn't pick a better person than Liz O'Connor. Liz, what is the crack and Yup the Flats?
Up the flats. Yup the flats.
Yup the Flats. Guys, you know I speak about, if you follow my work whether on social media or the podcast, you know how much I talk about Yup the Flats because I'm so passionate about it for so many different reasons. But one of the big ones for me, right, is the community, the love for other people, and I couldn't think of a better person than Liz for that. She's not phony holy. I've known her since, say, 20 something years ago, working in the Nicholas and Moira, working in community work. So we're going to talk about that today. So look, give us a little bit of a backdrop, as in the flats. Tell us a little bit, when did it all start then?
Well, I was born here in B block. Born and reared, never moved out. I think I was out here for just a year or so, but I came back, raised my family here.
Right.
My brother, I used to have a brother in the high block, he passed away. So I've always been based here. This is my grandmother's home, then my mother's now me and my children, my grandchildren. I wouldn't leave them, I love them. I love the flats. So,
I just want to say, right, keep it rolling, Andy. Andy, keep it rolling. Andy's trigger happy and knocking it off. This has happened about 4 or 5 times. We've been outside, we've been inside, and here we are. We're getting.
No, got the signal out.
They're trying to wreck our buzz. They're trying to wreck our buzz, Liz. Yeah, so go on.
It was brilliant growing up in the flats. Great sense of community, Matt. People that had nothing, the neighbours helped and vice versa. We had no, what you have now, technology. There was no fear of drugs or alcohol or anything like that. We didn't see anything like that. We wasn't around it. Not like the kids today, God love them, but no, great sense of community. Still a great sense of community. I mean, you come out here at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, you'll always see someone. You'll never be on your own. You're never alone in that. Yeah. And that's what I love about them. Yeah,
I've always said that the sense of support,
yeah,
and as you say, community and looking out for each other. That's
like
something that's magical.
It's like an extended family.
Why is that? What is that about?
I think it's because when we were all growing up, we grew up together, and we knew one another's families. We intermingled with one another. So, our children then and their grandchildren, they're doing the same. So it's just one big, huge family.
Yeah. Is it losing that? Do you think is that still strong in the flats these days?
The neighbours that would have been here for years, that sense of community would still be there. But I think new people coming in, you haven't got that sense, and they don't really, some of them don't want to interact. I think they're only moving in here, just passing on and moving off somewhere else. So for the majority of people that's in the flats all their lives, that community is still there.
Yeah.
They look out for one another.
Yeah. When do you think they start to change the flats? You know, when did they change? You talk about drugs earlier.
I think it was in the 80s when the drugs started coming into the area.
Yeah.
That's when everything changed. Everything went up. We lost 3 generations of kids since the 80s. I've known 3 separate generations of children that lost their lives.
That was a huge epidemic of heroin, wasn't it?
That was huge, yeah. So that really had an impact, and the government didn't do anything then to intervene and to try and stop it.
Have they done that now? Like, has that changed?
No, that really.
Patterns, isn't it?
No, that really just it's like a vicious circle. I mean, you have kids that grew up in that area, some of them that survived, went on to have their own kids, so it's like it's vicious. It just keeps going on from generation to generation. Because you don't know anything else.
How do we break that cycle?
It's very hard to break it, man. I mean, I was lucky I had my kids in here when the drugs were rampant, and I was lucky that I kept them out of it. And then my brother had children, he lost 3 of his children to drugs, you know what I mean? So we're from the one family, but two separate dimensions with the families, you know what I mean? Mine came through, thank God, his didn't.
Right.
You know, so.
And just there's so many families around Dublin, isn't there? North side,
no one that
south
hasn't
side.
been touched by drug.
No one's immune to it.
Nobody. Doesn't matter what your background, where you come from, nobody's immune to drugs.
That's a great point, and it's not just prevalent in flats. You're
No,
talking
everywhere.
middle class,
Everywhere.
upper class, working class, isn't it? It's right across the
Everywhere.
board.
It's right across the board, yeah. It's everywhere.
Where did the community work come in for you? When did you get involved in that? I know you're involved in the breakfast club at the moment. You help out with super. Where did all that start?
I always helped out in the flats when I was younger because Paddy Birmingham, the guy I had from him and brother Patrick out John Gallagher used to run some of our projects in the flats, and we kind of always helped out, so that's where I got to kind of, I was getting something back.
Yeah.
And I just went down from there. I was working different jobs at the time, and then John Gallagher approached me then one year to it. I think it was the first Patrick's Day parade that he was setting up, and he wanted kids from the area, from the whole of the Liberty, so he asked me could I bring children up from here, so I used to bring kids from here in Bristol Street up, and they participate in the parade. And I done that for a number of years, and then he kept on asking did I want the job, but I said I was working.
Right.
So I said, he eventually broke me down, so I said I'll come in. I said, well, I want to be, if I worked, I want to be working in the community.
Right.
So that's where I started from.
Brilliant.
Just kept going.
Brilliant. What was it like to work with John Gallagher? He's some man for the community, wasn't he?
Brilliant man.
We're actually thinking about doing a whole documentary.
His whole life was given to the community.
Tell us a bit about that.
Not only on this side of the district, but John was known all over Dublin.
Yeah.
There's very few people in Dublin that can say that they don't know John Gallagher. Because
Right.
he went everywhere and he done everything. He set up the first community games. He set up the first number project in the area. So I mean, he done great things, and he done an awful lot of things that people didn't never even hear that he done, you know. So
Right.
he was a very private man.
Yeah.
But he had a passion. His passion was the kids, education. That they'd be educated and the community. That was his passion. That's what drove him.
Really?
Yeah.
I never knew that about
Yeah.
him. The only memories I have of him was he used to bring us all like the swimming, the summer
Yeah.
projects. You said, "Scream lads, get out of the pool." Was that the reason why he done it?
Yeah. I think John came from a privileged background.
Right.
But he was never, this is my opinion, but he was never snobby about it. He was as down to earth as you could get, but he wanted to ensure that the kids, the education he got, the kids in the Liberties got. So he was always pushing for education, and when he set up the breakfast club, the homework club.
Yeah.
He set that up in the 90s, I think it was.
That's when I met you. I met you in 98 or 98. I was working at the butcher's time. I used to be fucking terrified of you. I was like, she takes no shit. Because I was full of bullshit, bravado, and I thought it was me shit didn't stink, and I used to go down there, fucking think it was Billy Big Bollocks, and you were like cutting the legs on. I was like, this fucking one is a tough cookie.
No, but I had to say to the young lad I had over Francis Street, I said, when you used to come in, they'd say, I'll take the shit off nobody.
Oh, you
but I wouldn't
shit.
But I wouldn't take off the oats, and I wasn't going to take off someone else's child.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I had the great memories with them kids.
Yeah.
And even now, some of them is married, have their own kids, and they just say to me, it's the best time you ever had with you, even though you're terrified of it. But I mean, it was, you had to be respectful of someone. And if you're walking in a group with over 60 boys, it's hard, and you're going to get the message in between them.
Yeah.
But no, I loved you now. I got a great buzz out of it.
Why did you do it? What's your why? What was in it for you?
I don't know. See, I lost a child now.
Right.
I lost my first child. There was blessed with 3 other children as well. But every child, you have a different empathy for. You have a different kind of love for them.
Yes.
Is that so mad?
No.
But what I couldn't give Baynard, I said I can give it to other kids.
This is his son that passed
I could give it to other kids.
Did that have a huge impact on you? Can you trace it back to that? Maybe that was the reason.
But I always helped out. But when I started up with John, and I seen kids coming in there, and I mean the innocence in some of them telling you what was going on in the homes, it's like you didn't know any different.
Yeah.
And I said, she's sacred heart. There's no one ever tell them that you love them or give them a hug. And that's where it started from. I said I couldn't give it to me, so I'd give it to them.
Wow.
So I used to go out and then a few of them they'd be arguing amongst them. I used to make them all have a group hug, and you say, hey, she is again with a group hug, and they into the group before they'd act, because I never allowed them to leave in anger.
Right. Why?
Because I didn't want their anger carrying out. They had to talk it out, man. And one thing I found about children, that I see with an awful lot of adults, they'd be talking down to them. They wouldn't get down to the level of the child, where I always did. And I used to make them say, I used to say to them, look at me. I'd make eye contact with them. I wouldn't hover over them and look down on them.
Wow.
You can't do that.
That's fantastic.
You can't do that. But I said, you said you were terrified. A lot of them terrified me, but they still came back to me and just more protect.
Do you know why I was terrified of this? It wasn't because you were this big. It was probably because you could see me. Probably like you could see through me bullshit.
I could see what they were doing.
Yeah, like it was all bravado, it was all bullshit, it was all phony, and I was like, she can see me. I know it now, but I didn't then.
Yeah, because I mean, I had one lad, and he was the clown in the group. Brains to bone, but used to always put him up front. He'd be the messer. And I said to him, well, they all have great jobs. I said, you're going to be left behind. Because they put you up front to get a great laugh out of you.
Yeah.
But you're not learning anything. They're doing what they want. So he kind of, like, he just kind of looked at me. Then after that, he just behaved.
Wow.
But you have to show kids the potential they have. And when they're in a group and they have peer pressure from their friends, they say, well, look, you can step aside of it. You're not bound to it, you know.
It's a hard thing, isn't it? It's that crab mentality, isn't it? Like kids in the flats, unconscious to themselves, they're pulling their mates down. How do we break that generational pain?
But
how do we free
one thing
kids?
I never, and I said, I had hundreds of boys and girls in there over the years, but one thing I made quite clear when we were joining up was that I didn't tolerate any kind of bullying. I never. Because I remember I had four of them and they were big lads, and they were starting, and I said, if these want to know how to bully and fight, I'll show you how to fight. They get into the middle of the floor, they fucking around that.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
But that's the only way. They didn't see what they were doing was wrong.
Yeah, it's unconscious, isn't
When
it?
I put it up to them and let them see from the other side what it was like for someone else to be intimidating them, they kind of backed away.
Yeah.
And then I got a girl, and then a couple of years after, a motivational speaker, and she gave them a talk on bullying and the effects on bullying. And I just took a lot out of the kids because I could see the respect they were showing for one another.
Right.
So it's all about education, man. That's what it's all about, to educating them, but on their level, going down to their level, not just looking down at them and telling you do this, you do that. That's not how you treat a child.
Yeah.
I always said, if you want to get respect, show them respect.
Yeah.
That's the only way you can do it.
I love what you said there, Liz, you know, like you can deliver a message, but it has to be packaged in a way, the kids from the inner city, kids from the flats, you can't be going in from a textbook.
No.
You're delivering love, kindness, education, ways of being in a certain way that they get it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, by bullying someone, this is what it looks like. Being kind to someone, this is what it looks like. Eye contact. Some of these kids probably never had eye contact.
No.
It's alien to them, isn't it?
That's what I'm saying. So I kind of opened my eyes when I seen the kids. So I mean, I would have never really been up that area much, mixing with the children. And when I seen the kids, some of them that come in and they were broken up. But I mean, with the help of the girls that walked with me and John, we fixed them. We fixed a few of them. And I said, if you can only get 1 out of 10, you're doing good.
Yeah. I've said this to many people, right, Liz, right? The importance of community leaders, community activists like yourself. You can be that. Like, kids need security, independence, attachment. A person in the community like yourself, a coach, a boxing coach, a football, they're so important. They're unsung heroes of the community, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like they could have a horrible experience at home. Their parents, they have their own experience, their own karma going on. The parents, and no blame. But you could be that person that keeps them on track by showing them love, kindness,
That's all it
compassion.
is.
And it's unseen, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I missed the kids terrible. Rachel Hogan brought Jack down to me the other day because Jack was a very special child to me. You know, all the kids were special, but Jack had a little, he's autistic, and he settled into a routine with me. And when we lost the building, that routine was gone, and I missed them because I haven't beyond that grandchildren are autistic, but when they're in it, when they have a day where they have everything is sorted out for them, and they go into their routine where that's broken, it's very hard to get them back settled, you know.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we had loads of kids come through it up there, Brandon Street, Warrenwood. We had kids from over in White Friars Street. We had kids from everywhere. And that's one thing that John would never refuse a child to attend a parish, doesn't matter where they came from. Every child was to be treated equally. And that's what I done. well, not only me, I'm trying to get Phyllis and Lester and all that.
Yeah.
Treat them all equal.
That's Jesus, it's absolutely beautiful. I have this theory, Liz, right? I believe that childhood trauma is one of the greatest pandemics, epidemics, call it what you want, across the world.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
Well, when the first set of refugees come into this area,
When the what?
the refugees that are coming in here from the Congo and all that, and they were all based in the Middle East, believe it or not, and we had children that had come, and when I say traumatised, that wasn't the word to describe what these kids were seeing and experiencing over it. You could see it in their eyes now. And it was heartbreaking. And it was only later on when they were put into provisions and then they got houses and they were moved out elsewhere that I discovered that some of the little girls that was in with me and the boys had been abused, sexually abused. I mean, without the upheaval of having to leave that country with that on top of it, you know what I mean? And you could see it in the kids' eyes. There was nothing there. It was dead. It was hollow. And then when we start getting them in and doing activities with them and bringing them out and doing different things, you could see the kind of little spark coming back. But I mean, children that have been traumatised, to me, they need that extra help and time to spend with them. But it's very hard for a child coming out of trauma to trust. They won't trust anybody.
No, fear is fear.
It's to break that down and get them to trust. You know what I mean? So it's very, and unless you've actually dealt with it, it's very hard to explain. You have to be patient, you have to allow the child to come to you, you can't keep on saying to the child, tell me what's wrong, I'll try and help you. You have to give them the time to say to you, well, this is what happened. I know that you're not going to go anywhere else about and do anything that's going to go against them.
Right.
But the fact that they can talk to you and release it, that's what helps them to move on.
Yeah.
You're not judging them. And a lot of kids think they're being judged if they do something wrong, but they're not.
They don't have trust.
No.
You know, the person that they attach to or the adults, because the adults hold all the answers, so they know everything. Sure, they let me down, they hurt me, and then we just go into this cocoon and then we close up, everything is darkness, fear. It's hard to break them down. It's only the light of kindness and love and that eye contact.
Well, when I started taking over the project for John, the first year I kept them in around the city because we hadn't really got any funding to get them out. And I was using public transport with them, and I said to John Gallagher, never again am I bringing them onto public transport.
Why was that?
Hanging on to some of them, slagging people on the buses. There was a man in front of me one day and he had a body passenger, kept calling him Patch the dog. And then everyone in the bus was talking hilarious stuff. But I was mortified, so I just got, the bus went to stop, as I stopped the bus, and I marched them all up, back up to the centre. I said, I don't care, John, you have to do something. You get them to hire a bus, and we've been, because once you have them on one coach, you can contain them. But then we start bringing them out down the country. We brought them out of Dublin in places that they never seen, man. And you could see in their eyes, a lot of these kids wouldn't have had a holiday. The most of them would, but a lot of them wouldn't have. And then I remember one family we had, and the mother was the next side of the club, and the kids used to come down and they'd be like their heads down, getting on the bus. And I said, well, when they get on the bus with them, I said, you go with them. I said, and make it there. I said, let them have memories of you actually being out with them. And from that then she started, you could see the difference in the kid and in the mother, that someone trusted her enough to go. I mean, would I walk with her there with them? I said, if we look down on people, man, how can we look anyone else, look at ourselves in the mirror and say, well, I'm a good person? You can't do that, you're looking down on someone. So that when it started off from that, then to start going down to the college farm, the bog. I remember we were the first group to bring a group of kids up to the Orange Neutron, to the Mount of Juna. I think I had about 15 lads from around the Coombe and that. And we brought them all up there and we were showing how to train the horses and all. We brought them down into McDonald's then. I mean, the guards in Cabin Street, the community were very good with me working with these young people. Because a lot of the stuff that I done I wouldn't need to get them out without having the guards driving them.
Really?
You know, so.
And people don't see that, you know. You know, people think it's synonymous. Guards, inner city, there's a conflict, blah blah. Like I know there's a couple of guards in particular that are great community supports.
I mean, there's a lot of them that act the age But I mean, you don't come from the area, so you have no contact with the area.
Yeah.
You don't come from flats or from an inner city. But a lot of them that do come in and they want to mix, they want to get to know the people. And I've been very lucky over the years with all the community guards that was in Kevin Street. And even today I'm still working with them. If I need anything I just have to ring them and they're up. They're delivering, they're doing whatever we need, collecting stuff, you know, so.
Yeah.
And that's one thing we always made sure with the kids in the homework club, that they never be afraid to talk to a guard. If they're ever in trouble, they can approach a guard. And that's even with the kids in the morning going to school. If you think anyone's funny, running to the nearest shop, don't be afraid to ask people to help you.
Yes, that was counterintuitive for me growing up as a kid. Don't ask for help. Definitely don't say it to the authorities. Definitely don't say it to the guards, or because you're a rat and you're a faggot, and all these derogatory terms are said to you if you reach out for help. That's lovely to hear that.
No, I always made, that's one thing I always told the kids in the breakfast and art school, that anyone approach you or if you think someone is following you, go into the nearest shop or stop the nearest guard and say help. I said never be afraid to ask for help. Because maybe it's the safety aspect as well. Do you know what I mean? You see in the flats kids rambling around for all hours of the night. They're safe in that complex. I've seen young kids out on the streets. They're not from around here. They probably are from here, but not from here. And do I want to be terrified at the age they are walking around? You know, so there's an awful lot of danger out there. You don't realise that.
There is.
So safety is paramount with you. You have to tell them not to be afraid to stop a guard, go into a shop and ask for help. Someone will help them. You know?
Yeah. What is the work you're doing at the moment in regards around the COVID? I know you're doing a bit of work with the...
I'm still doing
with the soup
the food deliveries. Yeah, I'm still doing the hampers, but I'm assisting Christopher and Fran and the girls are there, does brilliant work. I'm assisting them with food when I can get it for them. Because I can get it, I give it to them.
Yeah.
But we're all just working with one another. I had the privilege of going out as you did with Christopher twice.
Yeah.
And it was brilliant. I love contact. Well, that's what I missed most, is the contact I had when I was up in the hall.
Yeah.
Talking to people.
Yeah.
Because even when I was on Francis Street, I would have a lot of lads that had alcohol problems and mental health, and used to come into Francis Street and make me a cup of tea and have a chat and a laugh. So I missed all that.
Yeah.
So being able to go out with Christopher was brilliant.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, the first night I went out with him, and we were getting those soup and time talking to girl, and next I heard up the liberties, and I looked around, and there was a father, and he's trying to come to the homework up to me, and he's had to fall on hard times.
Yeah.
But as soon as he seen me, he remembered me.
Yeah.
And I just kept talking to her. I said, geez, what happened? I said, so. I said, look, I said, you can only go down so far and you'll bounce back.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I hadn't seen him in years, but he still recognised me with the mask on out in the middle of the street.
Unbelievable, fantastic.
Yeah.
How have the flats changed though in regards with, Dublin City Council, the layout, the complexes? How's that all changed?
Well, in the 90s when they done the region here first, Andrew would remember the flats when we were growing up. We would have the beautiful, in the middle around the square there, we'd have the beautiful castle steps, we used to call it. The steps that brought you up into the higher block. And then, I don't know who the brainwave was that you got the region in the 90s, but they put in all what I call the maze. The listed blocks around there. You lost out an awful lot of space when they put all that shit in. It wasn't anyone's benefit in here. They put in trees that was meant for parks. So it meant that the trees were growing up and people's light was getting blocked out. It was meant what they done. And the amount of money they said they put into each flat, I couldn't see the value of what they were saying was put into the flats. Myself personally. Yeah. But this time around, hopefully, the help of Boston, Campbell there, and the Residents Association, we're in the process now going through another plan for region. But I said this time it has to be what the residents want, not what the architects want, or what they perceive to think that we want.
Oh, okay.
It has to be for the future, for the kids and the grandkids and the kids that's going to stay here. It has to work for them, and it has to be sustainable for them. Because I can see the flats aren't that big, but below the living standards of Europe. European Council.
Yeah.
So they have to bring them up to the standard, so they're talking 10 or 15 years, but we'll see, man.
I like what you just said there, Liz. The people, the residents have to be around the table as well, and because these decision makers are making decisions without the people in money.
They have to live in them.
Yeah. And do you think then that will change the face of the community if they don't? Because they're gonna, like, already the area's being gentrified, isn't it? Like the Liberties, and so this is the last kind of stronghold as well, isn't it? These flats, my flats, your flats, Marble Lane, School Street, Pimlico.
I mean, Mandar O'Brien, I don't know what you heard, Andrew, last week. You know, I think it was 52 million. But I mean, out of that 52 million, most of that is for the redevelopment around the greenery and all that. It's nothing to actually do with the people that's living in the area.
Right.
To me, it's to beautify the place for visitors coming in.
Yeah.
There's nothing there for the resident that's already living there.
Yeah.
That needs for the place to be upgraded for them, not for visitors.
Yeah, it's more like for aesthetics.
That's it.
Yeah, but with trees, it's becoming a beautiful more place, blah blah. But in regards to the regeneration, you know, how do we get people involved? How do we get ownership from the resident association? How do we get people active? How can we get them to use their voice?
I think people have been let down over the years by the council, Matt. And I think they've seen the degradation that's around them now and the way it's being allowed to run down. And they're seeing people coming in and they're creating artist studios for them, different hubs. And it's being put all around them, but there's nothing actually for them or our kids. So people have begun now to realise that they need a voice to be heard. So they're becoming more vocal now, which is brilliant. And they're becoming more active in what's actually happening in the flats, and they're having their say, and their voices are being heard. Because I said you can have a little whimper and no one will hear you, or you can roar just the once and you have their attention. So that's what's happening.
And do you think, is that happening? Do you see that happening more?
Yeah, I can see it happening, because I think we have a group that's there now at the moment, and it's a mix of all age groups. I think the older ones is kind of worried to give their experience to the younger ones that's coming on, and they're taking it on board.
Yeah.
But I said one thing is have to be consensus of what exactly everyone wants, and be on one page for that, and push it to the council that we're not going to back it, we're not backing down. This is the group now that's representing the people, and we have the people, you have to think of the people that we're representing. So I mean, they're pushing and they're voicing their, and which I'm delighted with.
Yeah, brilliant.
Because there's going to be a strong, if they keep going, there's going to be a very strong community within Oliver Bond.
I think I do believe that we're at a crossroads in regard to the community, the liberties. You know, people talk around the world about the liberties being this and that. But if that goes, you're losing the essence of liberties, you're losing its identity. So I think it's really important that the younger generation
have to keep the fight, have to keep going. Because this is what I remember when we started discussing the plan for Francis Street, I'll go back over 5 years ago, to start discussing what we're going to do in Francis Street. I said, that's all very well, I said, but I want to go to people that's living around Francis Street. I said, you are building everything around them, they're pushing them out. There will be nothing left to the liberties unless the people of the liberties stand up and say enough is enough.
It was just a fabricated liberties.
If they want to build, fair enough, build. Build outside. Don't build in here where we're already smothered. And I remember the first block of apartments I seen when they did the new slums of Dublin. They put down the slums in somewhere hell and they put them up in the liberties. And that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's people there at the back of Bournemouth there, and they're going to lose no natural light into their homes because of these hotels. Many hotels is needed in one area.
Right, yeah.
You've over 5,000 student apartments. How many do you need? When all these kids go back home to wherever they're from, what's going to happen to all these apartments? All these accommodations are going to be turned to Airbnb.
And a lot of them kids now or who they were built for, are doing online college because of the COVID. Yeah. They're doing online colleges. Yeah. So who's gonna pay for those? And
I don't know. I mean, as I said, what happens when the apartments become vacant in the summer? Are they going to be turned into Airbnbs? Because if it is, that's bringing in more problems into the area. And I mean, I found one thing with the government particularly is they bring in services, they pop them up in the liberties overnight without informing anybody in the liberties. You don't go to any of the groups. You don't go to any of the councillors. You don't go to anyone, they just appear. I mean, I found a service on Francis Street, I never even knew it was there.
A service?
Yeah, service provider up there. We were told it was a bike shop. I was told it was a service for people coming out of prison. I mean, that's just one.
Right.
And these are all popping up everywhere.
Right.
But no one's been told about them, because if they tell the people what they're planning to do, they know they won't get them in.
You know,
This has been going on for years, man.
look at the Nicholas Amora, the parish centre was turned into
A hospital.
Yeah, and nothing against the hospital, but that was the focal point
Yeah, for everyone.
for kids. Like
Everyone.
I was shocked that was gone.
Everyone.
How did that happen?
Well, I mean, the church owns the building, though. Basically down to the church.
Jesus, I couldn't believe that,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, hopefully we get it back. That's what we're all praying for. We get it back, and it's given back into the community because it was a badly needed space. I mean, people went in there for their dinner. You had women's group in there, you had kids group, you had everything. That building went from Monday to Sunday. I think the only time that was closed was Christmas Day.
Right.
Every other day it was open, you know. So that was a huge loss to the area.
Here's a question for you. You give out so much love, kindness, compassion, and they say you can't give from an empty bucket. How do you fill up your bucket? Who looked after you? What do you do?
I just look after myself.
Yeah.
I have my faith. I believe in the Blessed Mother of the Sacred Heart. I could go up every morning praying. Get through the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Or I go to sleep at night, I pray. That's all we can do, Matt. Pray. That's all we have.
I went out with Fran and Christopher last week, and I watched them, and I went home and I cried a little bit, and I was blown away by the work they did, but I couldn't get out of my mind that they're not phony holy.
No.
These guys are genuinely, they care. I watched, and I went home and I was asking myself the question, am I phony? Do I really care? I was watching. You're the same person, you know, and I it's amazing to see that you give so much back to the community, and I want to thank you, so thanks very much.
I never look what I was giving it back, it's just something that was in me. It's something I've always done. It's walks me, it's something I enjoy doing.
And that's what I love about the liberties, the flats, is that genuine, I've been hurt, so I want to help another person. You see the darkness in someone else out there to help. Isn't that what's so magical about the flats?
Yeah, but it's not only the flats. I mean, even up in Garden Court and the old folks up there. I mean, I do often pop into them and like ask characters to listen to them chatting and talking and park terrace. I mean, they're great neighbours up there, man. I got on great with everyone up there, and they were all very helpful. So I mean, there is genuine people that want to do good, you know, and they are doing good, and people don't realise what they're doing.
Which?
They are doing good, but people don't realise they're doing it. I mean, even the I mean, I know you see the alcoholics on the street, or you see the addicts on the street. You say good morning to them. You're acknowledging them. That means an awful lot to them.
They're human beings.
They're human, and you're acknowledging them. And that's the first thing when I went to Christopher. Every person who came up to, I said, "What's your name?" And he kept on looking at me. But I mean, if you don't know their name, how can you converse with them?
Yeah.
So by asking them what their name is, you're acknowledging them that they're there. So I mean, if everyone done that around the liberties, and I know an awful lot of people, and younger, especially younger people, you see them outside Tesco Bank, you see them outside Lidl, but they acknowledge them, and it might be only €1, but you give it to them. They're not walking by them, they're not invisible. There's someone's ratings, someone owns them.
Yeah.
So that's my little waffle for tonight.
Come here, here's the question. I ask this at the end of every podcast. What is the one thing you'd like people to take away after listening to this interview?
Just be more respectful of people's feelings. And don't judge a person by what you look like. I mean, no one knows what tomorrow brings for us. Maybe we could all end up on the streets tomorrow. But remember, when you see them on the street, someone owns them. They weren't brought into the world to end up on the street. Just show a bit of respect.
It's beautiful. I remember Chris was saying to me, you know, we're all just one paycheck away from being homeless.
That's it.
The lads do great work. You do great work. I'm absolutely delighted and honoured to do this interview. I wasn't nervous coming to meet you this time as I was 20 years ago. I think I'm a bit more genuine and authentic now that you can't see through me. Liz, honestly, fuck, that was lovely. You're just a beautiful human being, and the community needs fucking a couple of more 100 Liz O'Connors in the community.
Loads of them out there, man, that's doing the work.
There is, you're right, they're right.
Loads of them.
Me and Andy need to pull up our socks and do a bit more work. Liz, thanks very much.
You're
Guys,
welcome,
thanks very much. That was absolutely amazing. Liz does absolutely phenomenal work. The lads in the Liberty Soup Run are doing phenomenal work. Christopher and Fran, they're just absolutely brilliant. I want to thank you, the listeners, for all your support, all the kind words and the love and kindness you send us. Shout out to Liberty Media Hub. Andy, my trusty sidekick, that's his gig. If you ever need anyone to do any media work for you, he's your man. I want to shout out to Noel Rooney Media Graphics, the girls from Shannon's Hope Line,
Sandra
and Lisa doing amazing work. Another brilliant people in the Liberties. When we get them back onto the podcast, and just again, please share this with family and friends. Get out the words about the flats, about the Liberties, about being kind, as Liz would say, and being treat everyone with respect. Thanks very much. Take it away.
Yup the flats. Yup the flats.